in the future might want to put in curbing and asphalt, to make it easier to be accessible. So there's that range of trying to put in curbing, concrete, asphalt, just to gravel or even grass areas you don't mind parking in for special events.
Right, for special events. Also, when we're looking at, let's see, the phasing, like you have different designs on, the pages aren't numbered here, but it's called phasing.
Oh, for the campground?
Yeah.
I was going to talk about that after we talked about the
Okay,
front.
okay. One other question about the actual playground for the kids. Do you have with your company, I see you have all sorts of different toys and, playthings and all of that. Do you have anything that has to do with the kids that love to skate? Little hills, or, do you have anything like that?
For winter or summer?
For summer, like with roller, with skateboard.
Oh, skateboarding.
Yeah.
Excellent point. A skateboard had not come up in this, and there's typically two options for skateboarding. One is a paved area, an asphalt area with equipment that you bring in, you set up on top of it. So it's ramp kits, bowls, that kind of thing. Or the more highfalutin version is a concrete park that has they're like swimming pools where you have they're much more expensive, but they have they're much nicer to skate on.
Yeah, the corners.
So to date, we haven't talked anything about skateboarding. The option 4, for example, what's nice with it, because it has a little bit more space between things, so it would allow you to say, okay, we're not talking about a skate park in the near term, but we have space to do it if we wanted in the future.
Okay.
And these graphics provide you with a map to where you want to get to. So if it is something where we should consider showing a skateboard facility, that's easy to do.
Okay.
Sure. I do like the idea of having a skate park area. However, that's really usable after the year. If we were to make it a flat concrete surface or a flat surface of course, then in the winter time, maybe we can convert it to an ice rink or ice rink.
Yeah, that makes.
You know, where the lip on the end of it, we have ice.
That's a great idea. I promised a group of neighborhood boys that I would speak up for them about a skate park.
Yeah.
So I'm doing so.
Skate park
And
Yeah.
sorry.
Good question. So what's like the motive for 2 fields, and not just like, not one of your options has got like a field. You're breaking up 2 different fields and consuming a lot of area of the park by a field, and a little less specific like skates and ice, and you're giving up diversity for a field.
Well, this is what the public chose, is what they're going off of, if I'm not correct.
So to address what you're saying is you can co-locate a ball field with a football field. It's not quite like you get 2 for 1, because your baselines and things overlap. Your outfield would overlap your multi-purpose field. So you can do it, and that comes back to community desire for that. We normally try to avoid it because we assume that after school, they're 2 distinct groups. There's some kids playing ball, some kids playing football or soccer. This allows youth or adults to be playing at the same time.
So I'm also like not seeing like, any like covered spaces, that are typical that you see in places like, I don't know, go to Juneau, like when I've been down there, most other parks are covered. Unfortunately, their parks are covered for year-round usability. There's some things in this park design that, by focusing on 2 fields, that we're losing an opportunity to take advantage of diversifying, and then also, inquiring usage year-round in our area. And, there's like no covered basketball area that can be diversified and used as another way. That's another field that can be also converted to something else. But a lot of the areas in this world that have, or in our area that have successful parks being used are covered. It's not a skate park, it's a covered skate park. It's not, basketball courts are great, but if they're covered, they're better. Same thing with hockey. If you have a covered rink with the Willow, that rink was there for many, many, many years, and it's covered. And now every Saturday and Sunday weekend, the lights are on, it's being used. So, when I look at the glance of this park, I'm not seeing any accommodations for the area. I'm seeing a park that works great on a map that's been reproduced many, many, many times. But I'm not seeing things like water supply, which is something that's been on our motion for a long time, is getting water to the area. There's an entire hill that all it needs is some easy working and have a sledding hill. Yet there's no incorporation in the sledding hill, it's almost already there, nor is there parking designed for it. A majority of these parking lots that you're looking at, you're also not really looking at maintenance. And keeping them open, problem like 4 does open things up, but it's also making things difficult to maintain and long roadages versus option 1 is all set up for low, easy maintenance. And snowplow to be able to keep something open year round, because that's something that we struggle with. So having long roads that lead to the back to parking lots that are small, versus having, big areas that can be cleared by dozers, so when I see this, I see a great starting point in discussion, but I see that this map, in my opinion, is missing a lot of local information that, you might have posted something on Facebook and gotten a little bit of feedback, but that's not enough to create this. And I feel like there's a lot of work that can be done here to get this more focused on Houston's needs. And how we keep a park open year round, and how we can keep it easy and affordability down. And we live in an area where the basketball field is, or the soccer field is more than likely during our events going to be used for putting cars in it, to make room for people. And I just think that there needs to be there could be a lot of room for input of how to make this work more for our area. And I do appreciate people's opinion on Facebook, but that's a very few and far percentage of people that live here in the area that have invested time in the parks and what we need.
This is perfect because you stated right at the beginning of the process is exactly what it is. So the main thing to comment on what you're saying is with these ideas that come up, there's a lot of real estate here, and it's going to be a matter of creating a Houston-specific plan, and that can be the master plan to achieve it over time. With the initial survey that we did receive, they talked about the low-hanging fruit versus the next step of, okay, we can do this, we have the space for it. What are the next things that people want? When you were initially talking about skate park, the first thing that came to mind for me is the fact that they're only usable during our narrow summer months versus having a covered area for this. So this is very adaptable to anything that you say, and especially things for sledding hill, winter use. The assumption for something like this for snow removal is any of these parking lots, other than the roads, which you're correct with, that's a good point about the road to the back requires a higher amount of removal to get to it. One of the benefits of having the parking lot up front, though, is that in the winter use for this area, you might choose not to maintain the back area, is that the winter uses for this place is whether maybe it's skiing or some covered areas. If the front parking lot is close to that area, that's a good maintenance strategy. And then similarly, I like the longer 2-bay parking lots where you can just blade it toward one end and make sure that you have the easy ability to, maintenance personnel have had a chance to look at these. So everything that you're saying is perfect, because before this gets to a preferred master plan that'll go out for grant requests or funding requests, ideally, maintenance and everyone that will inherit this get a chance to comment on it. So your comments are perfect.
You're just saying these are kind of a good timing to bring some of these.
Yes, now is the time. Yes, and it's a good thing to stress is that with each of these options, they're not They're not completely separate from one another. It's kind of like a smorgasbord. If there's something you like in one of them and you say, well, I really liked option number 4, but there's something we need to think about, or can you try and do this? It's really to give a range of options to do exactly what you just did. I love it when we put something up and people can start to throw darts at it.
It might be a possibility to use the ramps, the removable ramps in the summer, but make it to where it can be a skating area in the winter, something like that, and it possibly be covered so it can be utilized.
And a great point is if you have like Southeast covered basketball court that is designed to be flooded, that you cost is also going to be a factor with this. Any of the covered areas wind up being quite expensive, but for the value they bring to a community, they can bring a really high value. So in a space like that, if you realize that Houston's a basketball town, and then in the summer it's going to be basketball courts, and in the winter it's going to be something else, that's good direction.
Well, the kids bring those, they make their own jumps and
Yeah.
bring them to the park, and we have I know of at least 10 boys that are between the ages of 10 and 14. If not, there's a lot more, I'm sure, but there is an age group that would definitely utilize that, and there's not one close by. You'd have to go all the way into Wasilla, I believe, if I'm not.
And that expands to another user group is for pump tracks with mountain biking, like the one they have in Palmer by the Matsu River Park and Campground. So it's just a small bike track for BMX or for mountain bikes where it's more terrain and trick focused. So
yeah, that would even be great, to have that included. So I'd like to see something for the young men or young boy, the boys that are age 8 to 14 in that age group, have a place where they can ride their BMX bikes and, have little jumps or whatever, so that they, have a reason to come to the park as well.
And a question I would have for the body is, this will be this important hub for Houston, provides a lot of Parks Rec and event amenities to it, but it's centralized within a given area. With how distributed your population is, that might make sense because it's a drive-to place, but something else to consider is in a larger parks master plan, do you need smaller pocket parks or neighborhood parks that perform other things in different areas? If you put everything in one place, it's nice and convenient and it has some economy of scale, but then that's where all your traffic comes to. So sometimes, depending on the community, you distribute things a bit more that you don't wind up having other issues, perhaps. It's just something to consider.
Yeah, that is true. And, Bear Paw would be an option for that. And the part I like about it is that kids traveling on bikes, that's right in the neighborhood, versus them coming on King Arthur there and riding their bikes all the way up here. So, that is a possibility too, to look at.
And that places emphasis as well on the dashed dotted line, just references, potential future trails on this that would connect back to Rotary Park. A trail system that does connect with neighborhoods, allow kids to bike someplace, because I know growing up for me is the bike was freedom or ATV.
I really liked the auditorial space when you were able to use it in a manner where it paired with the field. I thought that was really unique, because I think that those audience places have a tendency to get underused, but when they do get used, usually they bring a lot to them, in those areas, and they have potential to bring a lot of diversity to the community. But when they're snuggled in a way, in a tight, or in small spaces, it turns into like a play or a group of people, or more intimate. But I like how when it's paired up to the ballpark of some form, that it can act as that, but then it can also do more.
Yes. And the model we used for this is the Skagway Arts Pavilion. We worked on that years ago. So what's nice with that is it's not co-located with the bigger field, but they built it specific for performance, that it has It's a nice big covered area with a good overhang. So if you have a small audience, part of the audience can be underneath the overhang. With this, we tried to locate the front of the stage about 60 feet from the ball field that you could actually have something happening if there was a game going on or something. But if you wind up having a larger event, then it functions well. And Skagway is also nice because they invested in a little sound booth location. So they really optimized it for use as a performance music, art theater space. And then I like down in Homer, they do Theater in the Woods with the Pratt Museum there, where they actually, they don't have a stage set up in the woods, but they do go into the woods to get that, the closer, the more cozy feeling to performances. And so a site like this as well, with the trails going through the woods, there can be spots that don't have a lot of development to them, but serve uses.
Now I see on option 1, it shows, now I guess, no, let me take that back. What I wanted to ask is that, what about a, you know, if you're going to have ball fields there, where I grew up, there was a lot of fundraising done with snack huts in a ball field for games and things. And it was quite a large fundraiser. It made quite a bit of money that could be utilized for Parks and Rec or utilized for the food bank. You know, that's a decision not for me to make for sure, but that just seems like an idea of adding that in to this design and having that already in place, which could maybe second as, like you said, they utilized it for shows and music and that type of thing as a part of a storage for that. I don't know.
What we sometimes recommend is co-locating a concession with bathrooms that have running water. And then also, you bring up a point for this, is that it's not explicitly showing yet the amount of storage that would be beneficial out here. Any softball and especially softball or ball fields wind up having a connex that have, you know, bases and, you know, whatever they want to keep in it. So a next step for this, when we get to a 1 or 2 options, those get much more developed because we've established this rough spatial layout and put a priority on which roads there are, where the parking goes. And then it starts to get filled in with all the things that need to make it work.
Now this, what is the, let's look at option 1. What is the pink area there?
That is just showing the campground area.
Campground area, okay.
Yeah. And when you do,
Yeah.
I think that's playground.
Oh, playground. Okay.
oh, sorry, the pink rectangle in the center, that's the age 5 through 12 playground.
Okay, and then the blue is for the,
The 2 through 5. It just to show the size of the pink
Okay,
one is
gotcha.
10,000 square feet, and
so
the
with this design, there's no covered area at all, is there, for recreation? Or,
there is between the pink and the blue on option number 1, there's a small brown box that would be meant as a covered shelter with cookout options.
well, we currently have one there already, right? That would
Yeah.
remain there.
Over by the dog park in the, near the campground. So this would be an additional shelter with like barbecue.
Right, and the one that's there right now is going to remain there, correct? Yeah. And that is able to accommodate like a little wedding or, you know, group family picnic, barbecue, that kind of thing, yeah.
Picnic tables that are covered.
Yeah, so,
And as this develops, if there's one large pavilion, and it could have bathrooms or storage within it for co-locating things, or if you wind up having a couple of smaller shelters, that goes back again to tailoring it for the community. There are parks that do have 2 or 3 shelters, you know, close to the different parking lots that you can wind up using, that you can have multiple things happening.
right.
What about the area directly on the other side of the street as the dog park area there, that hillside, you know, creating the sledding hill, you know, access to that, you know, utilizing the land there already at slope.
That's perfect, yeah.
would be a really good area and be able to provide, a winter fun to the park. I really want to focus on a park that can stay open year round and has year round activities. So, and that's an area that literally just needs, to be mushed down,
Yeah.
trees taken away.
Actually need to be anything involved in this, that would be a public works function, or we could just clear it.
Which there's already a road that's already going up there, so it's actually already pretty much in place. We just have to make have it mapped out as a sledding hill so that the kids can use it in the winter.
And it's
Fantastic idea.
almost, as I know, and apologies again for being late, we're at 5:50. If we segue to talk about, as I know your meeting starts at 6, right, the official meeting?
However, I don't think we're going to have quorum. Yeah, we don't have quorum because of an
Okay.
emergency with the fire chief and
Okay. This discussion is a perfect segue eventually into the campground area, because the campground area isn't going to be operated in the winter. One of the concerns that I have is when you have sledding hills, to make sure you have good run out at the bottom. So depending upon where we show a road access within a maintained area in relation to the sledding hill. But if you're talking about the sledding hill being, across from the dog park, that's
I think about where it is, a little bit past. the
then
dog
that's
park.
perfect. Then, we just make sure
There's
that
no road traffic.
we just assess to make sure that the amount of speed that a kid might get up to, doesn't have them running into the dog park fence or
Yeah, I think it's totally clear. It goes into open space, if I'm not mistaken, but we'd have to,
to that area that's
Yeah.
beyond the dog park.
Yes, yes. Yeah, that's I think a great idea to utilize for the kids in the winter.
And
I've seen a couple of things that I really like on the option 3. I like the easy access for the parking lot, kind of with the kids playground stuff. I have seen a lot of different people utilize parks, and you see a lot of parents park in the vehicle with it running, with their kids in the park, or the car, even if the car is an important part of the park. It's usually the place of warmth, it's the place you're getting in and out of. It's either used for warmth or it can even be used for supervision. And a couple of your ones are a little bit different, but I really like in that option, you're really maximizing the space in front of that parking lot to have the children closeness. Because I think we've all been in the parks and stuff where there's, either everything from a moose or whatever, but it's nice to be able to have access where you can watch a kid but not too far. And you see that quite often, of parents in vehicles letting their kids kind of play.
Yeah.
And I like that option for that one. I also really like the simplicity of the straight line in with 3 parking lots. Easier for maintaining and keeping open, less ground to work with. And I also liked that one because there's a significant area in and around the gazebo that's already there, and on the other side of the road there for areas of covered activities, whether that be covered basketball or whatever. And then I also had the idea about the kind of the covered space, and I was talking to you before about the 2 fields options.
Mhm.
You're gaining one more field, but what are you really gaining out of one more field? You're gaining a specific sport, but it's not, you're losing the multi-purpose function versus having covered tight areas that can last year round and have year round access. You can, because like the amount of people in the Houston area that play basketball that play softball are very few and far between. And most of them are in leagues in Wasilla. And even the city of Wasilla only really has 1 or 2 complexes of softball for a massive city. But I really like that one, option 3, because the one we have up there, because I feel like it leaves more room for either future sites of covered area or it allows that baseball field to be repurposed into something different. Like
And-
a covered hockey or something along those lines, 'cause, like hockey is a much bigger sport in this area than softball.
And the things you're bringing up are really good because for, especially from the winter use of the site, winter use starts to trigger a different level of maintenance and operations, you know, for a rink, hot mopping, you know, keeping it in good condition. A benefit of, like you're saying, is having the playground up at the front is if you did choose to not maintain, if that was your winter parking lot and then that was your winter use area, we would move the things into that spot that are the maintained winter activities. And then, you know, if the sliding hill is further down there, the road can go down to it. But that's simpler because it's just plowing, So the interesting or fun part of these spatial exercises is there's always the pros and cons. If summertime use, having that centralized play area with all the fields and everything is great. Someone made up a term they call the power of 10 for this kind of thing, is if you have 10 activities you can see from where you're sitting, it's going to be an active park because there's someone there, you know, doing a little bit of everything. And that's the nice thing with having in the center. But then it does create a little bit more distance from parking lots. So parents might not necessarily have their eyes on their kids from their vehicle. So as we start to refine these decisions, there'll be some good assessment on people's parts.
What is the ability to move, to put something in the park of more of like a central well or a water supply for people?
What is the current water supply for the RV park? Is there a spigot close to the camp host?
There's a pump
You're
there.
out of the pavilion, that's by the dog park.
Yeah, okay, that is there. I don't have the information to answer that right now for looking into like well volumes and that kind of thing. But the intent for a place like this would be, ideally, it would have water access within that central area with a playground for bathroom, you know, flush toilets, washing hands.
It's like, the thing I'm thinking in my head is like Wasilla's Wonderland Park.
Mhm.
How literally right there's also the be able to pull in and get water. You know, they have the city water area there as well. That's kind of what I'm more talking about. It's not so much like a spigot or a place you wash your hands, but a place you can load up with 100 gallons of more
Yeah.
water.
So I know there's the creek up at mile like 90, I think, that people pull water out of. What communal water sources are there around Houston?
There isn't any.
There isn't. That's what
Okay.
I'm talking about.
And driving all the way to Willow.
Yeah.
Here, so some water. There's not much water.
But they charge.
But that's
you-
only summertime, not in the winter.
Okay. So and that's another really good point. So a community water source.
Yes.
Yes, that's been something that, you know, even if it's a paid station like Wasilla's where you're paying and moving up and getting so much water supply.
Yeah.
I feel like the city needs to have a part of that first park opening is giving back to that community, I think, and having a close form of water.
Mhm.
You know,
Yes.
We're looking at from here pretty much the community center in Willow and the gas station up there in Willow are like your two places for pretty much water. And
It's been quite a,
Wasilla, but this is not a very great access for people that have water.
yeah, it's been a pretty
yeah.
big hardship for a lot of people to get water, especially in winter.
Yeah.
And now with the cost of living being, you know, making it even tighter for people to drive, that's like, gosh, 45 minutes that way?
Yeah, to see
And
a
then
park put in
45
like
minutes
without
back.
seeing a water source come in
Yeah,
would be a little hard to watch. It's
Yeah.
hard to miss.
We wound up getting 200-gallon containers. One's in our cabin and one's we take it in the truck, and then we got a little pump where we get it at the out by Sheep Creek Lodge there. So
Yeah.
so that would be a tremendous benefit to a lot of people in this area.
and then that also has a nice tangent with it with the campground, because one of the things we're talking about is where the future dump station would go if there's a dump station here, you know, how that would be feed or similar. So then access, obviously community access to water But another conversation is about dump station.
There is one there.
Yeah. Yeah, it's whether it stays there, how it's working, where it goes, because one of the benefits, and how is it feed right now? Is it how do people pay for it? Or do you?
It's a QR code.
Okay, and that's the honor system then? Okay,
QR code only.
okay, yeah. And with the dashed red line for this is really looking at the site as being paid public day use area up front, season pass, whatever it is. And then like I was saying before, with the RV area, a benefit of moving the dump station into the RV area would be if it was included within your RV site fees. So it all depends on how concerned the city of Houston is about relying on an honor system or where that's located.
When I'm looking at option 3, where is the shelter that's currently there at the park? Where would that be in this picture?
Do you see
All
the
way over
label
here
that's
by the dog park?
yeah, it's just west of the dog park
Oh,
there by
gotcha,
that.
Okay.
And then is it good to move into showing you the campground? We can always go back and forth with questions. So the first graphic, it's a relatively simple one. It's just to show the fee zones. The one on the left shows that for options, I think it's options 1 and 3, where the parking for the park is at just along the north. It makes it really easy that you have a very clear line between day use and campground use. Option number 2 on this sheet shows that if we do have that southeastern parking lot that was to the south of the ball fields, you're bringing people further in, but it's still relatively simple to have a cutoff. It's just more road that people would go to as public before they get to campground. Then the campground graphic is relatively straightforward. If there's a desire to really separate the campground, the yellow lines that we show on this would be really just modifying what you have that's existing in order to make it a one-way in, one-way out to reduce the potential mixing of traffic, people that don't belong in the campground. And then the orange line to the south would be the potential next phase to add camping or campground sites along that bluff that's just beside the creek. The red one, then there's already a blazed trail similar to the one at the top of the creek. The red one would be that blazed trail to add sites along that. And then pushing into new real estate would be the one that's green. The labels on these state how many pull-throughs we're showing versus back-in sites. At the moment, it's not unreasonably dense, but they could definitely be a little bit further apart. That really depends on the economic evaluation that you guys would do in the future as to how many sites you did want to have. And then depending on how the campground develops, it is nice sometimes when they do have the comfort station that has showers, maybe washing machines, vending machine, sometimes depending upon staffing, a little office if there's going to be someone on site. And then as well, a nice camp host site. That's the H symbol that we have in the lower left along the entry to the yellow. And then with the centralized comfort station, it's nice that place could be with running water for bathrooms. And then the rest of the site for a campground would typically be vault toilets to give people convenient enough access for toilets. And this is really initial because this is it's basically looking at the math of operating a campsite and understanding how many spaces you have and how to control circulation.
Do you have an idea of the length of the exact camping space?
These are shown as to accommodate class, 50. They're accommodate a 50-foot long motor coach for most of them, and then the pull-throughs would allow that as well.
50 foot?
Yeah. Either a car and trailer, truck and trailer. Yeah. And Depending on, getting a little bit of feedback, sorry. Depending upon the mix of people that you want to attract as well, there's always a possibility for walk-in campsites, small sites. This is showing they're all kind of the same at the moment because it's easy to do it that way. But it could definitely be mixed up that you did reserve or have sites that are meant for larger RVs versus smaller RVs. And at the end of the document, we show a couple precedents of Kasugi Ken, Centennial Campground in Anchorage, and then the one that's in the front of Denali, Riley Creek, thank you. Just to start to give some examples of other ones, because it's really, I really like Kasugi Ken because when you're up there, the spaces are really nicely separated from each other, and it's a nice design for that. So that's part of what this is based on, is trying to replicate some of those distances. I think those ones are further apart.
Yeah, they are all.
Then as I think I've mentioned, is right now we're looking at spatial orientation and having those questions of how far do we maintain going in? Where's the playground? Are things visible? What do we want beside each other? Do we have too many fields? Can they overlap? Higher level questions. A next part of this will be when there's a spatial layout that we know where the playground's going to go. The next step would then be filling in the playground with the desired types of equipment. What we normally do is come up with a basis of design that is inclusive. We show for each age group composite structures, climbers, swings, slides. I just skipped there. Music, steppers, and rockers. And then we show a variety of those within it. The goal for an inclusive playground is ideally to have fully accessible surfacing. So the rubber tiles are poured in place so there's no loose surfacing. And then a good balance of equipment for cognitive, social, physical, and cognitive, physical, social, and emotional development. So everything ranging from a color system that would allow a kid kind of to feel comfortable or know how to navigate through things if they're a little bit anxious about being in a playground area. The big spinny things that kids love, small areas that a kid can go to self-regulate, a little bit of shelter, a peaceful spot, places for creative play where it's not about as many actions or spinny things. So it's really, the secret to inclusive play is just providing a variety of play equipment. And I don't know how much exposure you have with accessibility or inclusive environments, but it's not meant that every kid can access and do everything on the playground. It's just meant that they can do, there's a way for them to do it, at least on a part of the playground, that they can do that activity. They just might not be able to do with everybody. And then a really nice thing with the accessible surfacing is that if, let's say you are in a wheelchair and you come up to a point when your friends climb a bit higher, you can still be right there with them below it, instead of with typical pea gravel or shredded rubber playgrounds, where you don't even get a chance to get in there because you're bogged down in it with your wheels. And then another part of that as well as parents and caregivers. The benefit of having a playground with the solid surfacing is that if your kid falls down and hurts themselves, you as a parent or caregiver can get to them, even if you are yourself disabled. That's really gets to that inclusive part, that you're really not stopping anyone from doing what they would like to do. And this really just gives a snapshot of a variety of different types of things. And then between different manufacturers, there's a whole world of ways to achieve these benefits. That is the packet that you have. So to be redundant, the first part of it is really the important thing, the first 4 pages for concepts, narrowing that down. That's what we'll share with the public to see what public preference might be.
Mhm.
And then the rest of it is just to start the conversation.
Right.
Exactly like you were talking about is, oh, I like this. This is missing. Let's talk more about winter design. The community wants to put a priority on covered areas, pump track, skateboarding. I've written these things down. The challenge will be at some point that a wish list is a great thing to have. And it's appropriate at this point for a process because we can wind up having a master plan that has a place for all of these, and something might not happen. But at least if it's decided to happen, it has a place to go. And what's great about covered play areas or covered courts is with the play area that we show, a portion of it could be covered. The main coordination for any activity, especially for playgrounds, is when you're building equipment, is your structure has to be tall enough that the kids can't get access to the bottom of it. So there's some things where your choices start to limit future outcomes. And I think that as a follow-up with Melissa, or the survey will be figuring, or maybe a question for you folks is, if you have any advice or opinion for the community of how to get a better feeling for where people would place an emphasis. It's nice that when we do develop that big master plan, that we also have a feeling for what the community has for preferences, phasing priorities, that somebody would say, well, the first thing we need to do is the covered skateboard park, and everybody agrees on it. So some way to get a feeling for phasing.
I'm sure that's the next step, is to present it, to the public and the city. I'm sure Melissa will probably be doing something to that effect. And that way we can gauge what it is, the community's interested in having, which we've done some preliminary, but like Dalton said, there's a few things on there that are real important, like the water and, providing a place for the sledding in the winter, having a covered space. All those things are going to be, looked at as well. And then we'll take it from there.
And I really appreciate the comments for what you see is missing, because that's, I think we've mentioned, is it's just nice to get diagrams in front of people, because throwing darts at something is a great way to learn things. And I don't think I've heard before the benefit of having all of the perpendicular parking at the front of the playground, so the parents can stay warm while their kids are out there. And the one thing that came to mind is when you're looking at things online and looking at winter cities or northern cities, is the ideal goal then is how do you get your parents out and activated and interacting with the kids or other people. So whether the city liability perspective is, can there be some warming things, or the fire pits, or ways to bring the comfort out. So that winter aspect, especially if just there's a bonfire night or there's hot chocolate in Anchorage on Westchester where they clear the lake, they do have bonfires and hot chocolate evenings to get people out. A big part of this is we're setting this area for programming and the community events that then will activate it. I hear that, well, our property has a lot of wood. I assume you guys still have a lot of wood.
Well, I think the one feedback that I think the three things we really mentioned was, trying to use the land a little bit there to open up our sledding, however that kind of worked, water source, and even if it meant accommodating and changing some of the field aspects, adding covered type of utilizing environment that could be used year round. And then simplicity of the road coming in with parking lots, so that stays easy to maintain. And like option 3, where you kind of go in, the city can define whether we want the first parking lot open, the second, third.
Mhm.
It kind of gives the city a lot of ability to decide what's open and closed. So I think those are some of the inputs that we put in, and I think having the parking places next to where people can visually see. There are a lot of people that enjoy things from the parking lot.
Yeah.
And I think that any forward movement with this park would be amazing. So I don't want you to feel like I'm saying any of those things, but I think with a few of those changes, it could really help the community a lot. And when you go travel other places, you go down to Ames and you see their park and you see the entire park there, but then you see the pavilion completely covered and that's where everybody's at playing and utilizing those spaces because they're tired of being rained on. And I really think that a park up here needs to represent that year-round open and let people define how they want to use those areas. But keeping things open year-round and aspects would be really huge. Even like the current place we already have with its little gazebo and stuff like that. That's been something we've been trying to get open year-round and it's covered. But that type of stuff I think people really like.
And a follow-up on court sports is locally, school, is that really the school gym is the place where people can go and play basketball?
Have you seen the areas? Have you seen the style of parks where they have like the gazebos, but they're basically the inner walls are basically chimneys and big eating places.
Yes.
People, you know, like the covered area, those type of things, whether it would be gazebo with covered where you would bring your own wood through to heat the entire rock, the whole place, even though you're outdoors. You know, those type of things in covered areas, whether someone decided to put up a park or basketball or whatever, or even the bazaar, it's covered. It doesn't matter what stage weather's going to bring, but we have a plan.
Well, and it's an amazing, the cozy central hearth fire thing is amazing when you have the big shelter that has the central fireplace. It just becomes a community, a meeting point even. But what I was curious about is that sometimes a place like this is almost evolves into a next step for having an indoor recreation facility. So rather than having an outdoor basketball court that's covered, it winds up being a little bit of a walking track inside with a little bit of field inside of it. You know, Anchorage has the dome, all those things. Would you see that moving from a covered basketball court to having a building that has a basketball in it of benefit?
I think that all that stuff sounds really wonderful. It's just, you know, I guess a part of me is just trying to take advantage of the doability of the recent and the now. You know, making a park is a beautiful thing. But if there's ways that we can accommodate to help it be open year round, it's really simple instead of trying to add on full proposals of buildings and maintenance and all of the stuff. I mean, that's part Bernard Center in Wasilla took years to make in production. You know, the people that got that going are hardly even around now. You know, it took a long time to get that building. You know, and I think that having some baby steps, you know, having whether it be covered basketball or covered even just an open space that people could do what they wanted with, I think could really be beneficial.
So right now at 6 o'clock, if somebody wants to go play basketball, where would they go?
Yeah. They
Is-
have to go to
Okay.
yeah, and they're going to probably go to churches.
Yeah.
So there's a LDS church who's got some stuff open.
Menards have basketball, do they?
But
Menards Center, they don't have basketball all, do they?
no,
It's all soccer.
So it sounds like for this, even at a minimum, it's just showing a basketball court that has, you know, multi-purpose striping on it. And then if that gets covered, great, but basketball would be a good thing to have here. A court.
and it also allows for other events to happen under coverage.
Yes.
You know, everything from even Halloweens to different food truck events, you know, because people can put picnic tables up. I mean, like, even our style of our Founders Fair that we've had here, I mean, we do it in the helipad parking lot, you know, and there's no coverage of weather, there's no place to eat. They jam pack the inside 9-2 with tables, and if it's raining, people huddle in there shoulder to shoulder to eat their free hot dog. So, and I understand that Houston's not going to have those things, but like, you know, covered open area is highly coveted in this area. I mean, it's something that you don't get. I mean, it's why everybody wants a garage in their house. And I think it could be a really big value to the community.
Mhm.
You know, like, when I'm in Southeast down there, I mean, derby, people practice derby underneath it. It wasn't intended to be made for derby, but it's a place out of the rain that they can sweep the floor and they play derby, out there. So, and yeah, there's a basketball hoop, but it's really just an open court that's covered.
And then Southeast as well with net sheds or different things along the waterfront that have those multiple purpose use. And that's really, for any park like this, what's great is if nothing should just be a
All I'm
single
saying is
use.
that, like, you go to other places in the state and they have specifically designed their parks to represent their area and to help protect them. And I see it over and over again, covered areas. And, you know, the parks that aren't used are the ones that aren't covered.
Mhm.
The skate park in Wasilla, the only reason it's used half the year is because it's not covered. I mean, in the summer long, there's just kids all the time out there skating around, hanging around, doing whatever. But they'd be there if it was covered. And I think that that would be even a small portion that wasn't big, could be a big give to the community.
Thank you.
Thanks for hearing. I think that was really neat to hear some of the thoughts. 'Cause
Absolutely.
I know that I've had this discussion many times, about the park, and I know some of it's on you guys' first time, but I really appreciate it.
Some really good points.
Yeah, and that context as well as the, my job is to listen carefully, to try to figure out something that balances aesthetics, fun, maintenance, operations, budget and everything like that to, I just sometimes call myself a horse whisperer because it's just a matter of listening because we have a set of skills that can make a plan where hopefully you guys look at it and go, yeah, that looks right for us. So any feedback is great feedback.
Anything else? Should we adjourn our work session?
Great.
Our work session ended at 17:26. Well, is it 16? Yeah.
That clock's wrong. That clock's wrong.
It's wrong. 6:23.
We went back in time.